we will have like the next speaker, who again, I'm proud to say, is a student of mine, and somehow, already 1/3 of the participants were a student of mine, and he is like, young student, but I would say that somehow he crossed many bridges despite his young age. He basically traveled around and he, did some volunteer activities and so on and so forth. And today he will speak about the gap between European and Arab culture in Oman. So as I said before, we moved from territory in terms of cultures and borders, we moved then to language and ethnicities, then we started to touch, body and gender, and now we return to, with the boots on the ground, and the boots actually on the desert. So I'm very happy to call here Indra Knibo, and I leave you the floor. Please welcome him.
All right, so I'm happy to be here, and I think now you can have a little break from the screen and from the slides, because as I have made already so many PowerPoint presentations in my life, so I decided this time to take another approach. So as the topic of today's event is bridging cultures, and before I can actually start to bridge the gap between, or at least to try to bridge the gap between two different cultures, I have to go a little bit back in time and actually explain you a little bit how did I reach to this point, what I want to talk to you about today, and how did I become aware of the expression or the word culture and what does it mean. So I'm quite in the front, so you will see. So at quite early stage in my life, I realized that there is a difference between my mother and my father. The difference, not that my mother is a woman and my father is a man, which obviously also is a difference, but rather that when I visited the parents of my father, it was like any other typical Estonian family, so nothing really extraordinary. But when I visited the parents of my mother, so I saw something like this. Do you know what it is? Yes? I see faces like you know. So yes, this is, at the beginning I called it a spider, because for me it looks like a spider. If you turn it around, maybe it looks more like a spider. But then I got to know that no, it's not a spider, it's actually a menorah, or the candlestick. They use it for Hanukkah, the Jewish Christmas. And so I got aware that actually I have two different cultural backgrounds, Estonian and Jewish. And actually, I didn't find that it's a problem for me, because I could use it for my own benefit. So if somebody told me, for instance, that I love Estonians, they are such a nice people, then I could say that, yeah, I'm also Estonian. And if somebody told me that, oh, I heard a theory that children from multicultural backgrounds are more talented, let's say, then I could say that, oh, by the way, I also come from, several cultural backgrounds. So it was a pretty funny game, which I like to play until a certain age of my life. And so then I reached to another breaking point in my life. When I was 19, I finished my high school with quite good grades, and the most probable solution would have been to go to the university. But before I wanted to pursue academic career, I felt that I need to do something else to kind of develop as a person somehow. So at this time it was really popular among young people to go hitchhiking, and so I took two of my friends, a backpack, and of course I needed some money for that, but I had been collecting foreign currency for quite a long time, so I had everything from Japanese yens ending with US dollars and Mexican pesos, so of course it was like a nice collection, but never mind, it's just the money. So I exchanged it all for euros, and I got like 200 euros, which is not like a lot, but it was enough for the start. So here I go. We went to visit different countries like Poland, Lithuania. Sorry for the flag. I know it's not the right color. Exactly. Switzerland, Austria, Germany, Italy, and so on and so on. The paper was too small. So basically, in every morning, I didn't know where I end up in the evening. If you end up in a nice house with Italian mommy feeding you with pasta, or you have to sleep next to the St. Marco Cathedral of Venice. Anyway, when I returned from hitchhiking trip, I felt like now I'm full of energy and inspiration to go to university. And there, as every other decent university student, I also wanted to go on Erasmus. So I spent 7 months, not so long, 7 months in Berlin, in Germany. And when I returned, it was a very bad timing because it was in the middle of the semester and I couldn't go forward with my courses anymore. They had already started. I could also not find a proper job. So I got like a last minute offer to go for EVS, for the European Voluntary Service, to Athens, to Greece. And so I decided that why not? And in 2 weeks I was already in here. In the center of Athens. Athens at this time was really chaotic, really messy because of the climax of the crisis. So it was pretty, I would say, difficult but also interesting time to be there. And it was also a very big melting pot of different nationalities, as it has always been. When I was in Greece, I met lots of different people. I made lots of networking. And when I was back from Greece, I had a friend of Poland who I was working with, and she wrote me one day that I'm going to apply for a very special program, for a desert journey program in Oman, and can you help me with the motivation letter? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? But wait, what program? So she sent me the file. There was not like official homepage for the program, but there was a file, and the first things that caught my attention was first, it's in Oman. So I had heard the name Oman, but if somebody would have said that put your finger on the map and show me where Oman is, I would not have known. Secondly, the program is financed by the Sultanate of Oman completely, so if you are selected to the program, you don't have any personal expenses. Sounds great. The third thing is that it's going to take place in the desert, so you need to be physically really fit for the program, and you need to be open for meeting cultural challenges during the program. And the fourth, the most interesting part, was that at the first day of arrival, your money, your phone and your documents will be collected together. Wow. So that this was the most difficult part, because it's like they explained it in a way that first you don't lose them while you are in the desert, and second you are not spending your time with your phone like playing games instead of doing like things which the program was meant for. On the first hand, it sounded like a great deal, but on the other hand, I could not imagine to tell to my parents that, hey, I'm going to Oman. If you want, you can Google where Oman is. And by the way, the phone and the money will be collected. Just to let you know, don't worry. So after some reconsideration, I thought that, all right, if I have already survived to live like a hippie life around Europe and living in the middle of the crisis in Athens, then what can be worse? So I filled in like a long application form, and by surprise, in a month, I got a positive reply that I'm chosen to the program. I still had some doubts, because of I heard that the program has been taking place for quite a few years already, but there has never been any participant from any Baltic states, so I would be the first one. I had nobody to ask from, what does it mean that your money is going to be collected at the first day, or am I coming back from that? So I decided still to take the risk, and in two months I was taking a plane, Qatar Airlines, and I ended up here, Oman. So I don't have time to go deep into the details of the program, but just to make you an impression. So the first day I arrived into the airport of Muscat, which is the capital of Oman. And fortunately, there was somebody waiting for me in the airport, so it was not so bad. So I spent a night in a hotel, and next morning, 18 of us, 9 guys from Arab countries and 9 from European countries, we departed towards the desert. So 6 hours of journey south from Muscat with a bus. When we reached the desert, our personal belongings were collected as promised, and we were given a rucksack with only the necessities to survive, like shoes to protect against the Scorpios, the Arabic scarf to protect against the sandstorms, a sleeping bag, a tent, 2 bottles of water per day, so we could fill them every day, for washing, for drinking, because obviously in the desert you don't have a shower, you have to wash yourself with the water which you have in the bottle. It was a really interesting experience, and so you have to share the bottle for drinking and washing, and to calculate. And 4 camels for the whole group, so we had to share the camels. So my idea before I went to the desert was that on the one hand, of course, I'm going to represent my country in this program. I'm kind of like an informal ambassador. So of course I'm kind of representing the ideas and the values of my cultural background. But on the other hand, I'm not going to be like I don't know, really. I'm going to be open for the other cultures. And at least at the beginning, I'm going to maintain a very soft line. So I didn't imagine to go to Oman. On the one hand, to foster women's rights, and on the other hand, democracy, because it doesn't work. So we were divided into tents, so that one participant from European country and one from Arab country. And my Arab brother was called Mustafa. He was from Egypt. So our welcoming moment started, and the evening started. The first night, we put on our tent to our first camping site, and so I expected that. Okay. So first of all, I'm, as promised to myself, I'm going to maintain like a soft line and avoiding those controversial topics about Arabic culture, which every European is concerned about. But probably Mustafa had something different in mind, so he went straight to the point. And instead of sharing what do we do in life, what do we study, where do we work, he told me that, in a month I'm going to marry my cousin, whom I have seen just once in my life. And but in the future I wouldn't mind to get some, second or third or fourth wife, maybe from Estonia. And then I was like, just last night I had been in the airport of Frankfurt drinking a coffee in Starbucks, and now I was suddenly in the middle of the tent, in the middle of the desert, so that on the one side there was vastness and Saudi Arabia, on the other side over the sea there was Somalia, just the stars above the sky. And then I was there with Mustafa discussing how many Estonian wives should take. Fortunately, I got to know the next days. Actually, this was one of the most, not most, but this was actually a mild kind of challenge I had to face in the desert. For instance, to know what is the difference between having such a project or program in a classroom, like in this beautiful house like here, and in a desert. I think the difference is that, if somebody asks you like you are participating in a program, and somebody asks you an unpleasant question, then I can always say that, I think my grandmother is calling and I need to help with the pancakes now or something. But if in the desert, a guy from Iraq, which really happened with me, comes to me and says me that, my brother died last week because his car was exploded. That the situation in Iraq is quite difficult. And by the way, what do you think about the war in Iraq, which is initiated by America? Or a guy from Palestine tells me that years ago our house was teared down by the Israeli government, and my family had to move to a refugee center. And actually, I'm living in Yemen now because I'm earning money for my family. But however, what do you think about Israel? So this is the moment when I can't say that, sorry, you know, I have some business to do, so I'm going to some sand dunes now. It doesn't just work out because first, believe me, the sand dunes are really, really, really high in the desert, and it's really challenging to go up the sand dunes. The sand is really, really, really falling back. Anyway, this was the moment when I actually felt that actually I have to be there at this moment, and I have to face those questions and things which I have just read from the media, which are like abstract for me, like the war in Iraq or the conflict between Palestine and Israel. Now I'm really there with the people who have real stories and who really for whom it's really like a personal issue, and I can't escape from the questions, and I have to really deal with them. I think one of the most powerful moments in the desert was when we were all standing in a circle, and then at 1, 2, 3 we had to go and walk all to different directions until the moment when we didn't see each other anymore. So the idea was that you have to be completely alone in the desert, in the middle of the desert, and later you can come back by your footsteps. But you have to spend like 1 hour thinking, sitting down on the sand dunes and thinking about the program, what has happened that far. And I felt this 1 hour was the most useful experience for me until then in my life. Because, of course, I'm not that naive that I think that, yeah, now after the program, all the problems related to war and whatever are solved. I rather think that it's more the idea that I realized that all right, there are differences, and I have to accept that there are differences, but at least at this moment when I was in the desert, it doesn't matter what I think about Israel or what I think about women's rights, or vice versa, what the Arab mates, what they think about Europeans, because we have to stay together as a group, and we have to. I mean, if somebody gets tired of our group, we have to stay together as a group, and if necessary, I have to give him my camel, because we had just 4 camels, but we were 18. Honestly, I didn't like to ride on a camel because the sand dunes were so kind of high and steep that I had more like to focus on staying on the camel than really enjoying the view, but this is another topic already. So anyway, I got to an idea that actually even if I don't believe that such programs can help to solve like big problems, but they are a very good starting point to bring people together without those modern things like internet, and although I really believe that internet is a great tool, but I think sometimes it's needed to get away from all the obstacles that can actually help you to bring people together and get personal contacts. So and this brings me to my last slide. I'm sorry because it's maybe not so visible from here. Anyway, there's a very good advertisement in Germany, which so maybe you can look it later up from the internet, because I don't think you will see much from here, maybe just the first lines. So the idea is that the script, which is here, it's looks like an Arabic script at the first sight, but actually it's written in German letters, and it's written auf der ersten Blick vieles scheint unverständlich, which means that at the first sight a lot can look for you misunderstandable. So I think it's like a really good idea to end with, and you can see here's a mosque, here's a church. And even if I don't believe that this program helped me to like build any real bridge between Arabic and European culture, I think it's like it's a good starting point for small bridges between the people, which can in the future end up with something bigger. Because probably those people who were there, some of those might become future opinion leaders, and they can bring some positive changes in the society. And actually. Before I really finish To make it more illustrative, I want to show you a short video which the Omani television made about our program, so you get like a short idea how it all looked like.
رمال الشرقية هي سحر الطبيعة في سلطنة عمان، حيث تعتبر من أجمل مناطق التخييم التي يقصدها السياح من مختلف دول العالم. وتجذب هذه المنطقة الكثير من محبي مغامرات الصحراء، ويفضلها الزوار نظرا لسهولة الوصول إليها وتوفر الخدمات القريبة منها، لتشكل موقعا سياحيا متميزا. كما أن وجود المخيمات السياحية التي تقدم الخدمات في بحر الرمال الذهبية لعبت دورا هاما في إنعاش السياحة في رمال الشرقية. وضمن فعاليات ملتقى تبادل الثقافات، قرر فريق من الشباب من مختلف الجنسيات خوض مغامرات يجوبون فيها رمال الشرقية مشيا على الأقدام. بدأت المرحلة الأولى بعبور الأراضي المستوية تحت أشعة الشمس الحارقة مرورا بعراقة الحياة البدوية، ومن ثم أخذ الفريق بتسلق تلال من الرمال الكثيفة والتي تتطلب منهم جهدا كبيرا، حيث أنها تعتبر رياضة مفيدة للأبدان. بعدها واصل الفريق رحلته بركوب الجمال في تجربة يصفونها بالفريدة. وما أن بدأت الشمس بالمغيب حتى أخذ الفريق في نصب الخيام التي تخللتها مجموعة من المشاهد الجميلة كالغناء وإشعال النار للتدفئة. ومن ثم تجمع الفريق رافعين أعلام أوطانهم معبرين عن حرصهم على الوحدة والسلام بين الشعوب ضمن ملتقى تبادل الثقافات بالسلطنة.